I told my husband to man up about his anxiety. He disappeared and sent divorce papers my way. What good has anger and excessive desire ever done for a person in life? Looking back, I'm struggling to find any benefits my inconsiderate attitude and anger brought me. Instead, they've torn down my happiness. I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that my thoughtless words, uttered in the spur of the moment, have led to this outcome. You might be wondering what outcome I'm lamenting that's so terrible. Well, it's a bit complicated, but the worst part of it all is that I was served papers in the end, yes, divorce papers that marked the end of my beautiful life and left a stain on my most cherished memories. Memories I was too blind to realize were precious. And now, I feel it's too late to make up for anything. Don't divorce papers mean it's over and can never be fixed? I don't know what to do anymore. I feel lost and consumed by this dark, overwhelming emotion, and the feeling is killing me. At first, I couldn't understand why he was so upset. I thought he was just overreacting. But the moment I received the divorce papers, my eyes were torn open, leaving me bare and shattered in my crumbled world. Why couldn't I understand him? Why did I let my anger and sensitivity get the best of me? What was so hard about being understanding and patient with him? Instead, I ended up using his pain against him, thereby hurting him even more. My name is Misa. I'm 37 years old. I've been married to my husband Jack for 7 years now, and I must admit, our marriage has been far from easy. When we first got married, we were like any other newlyweds, filled with love and dreams for our future. But then, over time, things began to change. My husband was a surgeon, and I worked for a company. Jack was a hard worker and a supportive pillar to our family. Despite his demanding work and tight schedule, I could see he gave his best effort to always be there for us. He made sure to put my feelings first before anything, and nothing mattered to him as much as me. He was the best. But I failed to reciprocate that love and care. Instead, I used his pain to hurt him even more. I'm consumed by guilt, knowing I couldn't be that same supportive partner. I don't know what hurt more, losing Asher or realizing I was losing Deacon too. Every day after Asher's death, our home felt colder. Not because Deacon stopped loving me, but because I shut him out. I buried myself in silence and blame, holding on to the belief that if he had just done one thing differently, our son would still be here. But what I failed to see was that he was already doing everything he could, even when I wasn't. I saw Deacon cry only once. It was the night I screamed at him, told him it was his fault, and that I should have never trusted him with our child. He didn't say a word, just stared at me with those broken eyes full of sorrow I refused to understand. He didn't argue. He just walked away. That silence that followed was the loudest sound I've ever known. I thought I was punishing him for losing Asher, but in truth, I was punishing myself for not being there when it mattered. For putting everything else before the two people who loved me most. In my desperation to cope, I returned to work. Tried to drown my grief in schedules, meetings, and deadlines. But nothing filled the hole Asher left behind. And Deacon, he stopped trying to reach me. Eventually, the day came when he left. No angry words, no final plea. Just a quiet departure and a note that simply read, "I loved you both, but you stopped letting me in." Now I sit in the stillness of my once lively home, staring at Asher's toys that no one plays with anymore, and photos of a man I still love, realizing the true cost of my ambition, my pride, my refusal to listen. Grief destroyed us, but my blindness finished the job. I would give anything for just one more moment to hug Deacon, to tell him I'm sorry, to thank him for holding our family together while I was falling apart, to say his pain mattered too. But some things can't be undone. And that's why I'm telling this story now. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there still has time to listen, to pause, to hold on to what truly matters before it's gone. Jack's loss was just as devastating as mine, but I never gave him the space to grieve. He had lost a child too, but I had not stopped for once to consider his feelings. I only thought about myself. That day, Jack was supposed to pick Alex up from the daycare, but an emergency came up. He called me countless times, which is so painful to admit now, but I was too caught up in celebrating my promotion with my colleagues to answer. I was savoring the moment, oblivious to Jack's urgent messages. It wasn't until later, when I finally checked my phone, that I saw his texts and missed calls so late, and they came with the devastating news that shattered me forever. Jack called me again after the team gathering, asking if I had picked Alex up from daycare. I was taken aback by his question, as driving Alex to school and bringing him home had always been done by him. I feel so ashamed that I even thought that way. I yelled at him, saying it was his responsibility, that I was too busy and had only just seen his message. We hadn't even finished arguing when he got another call and hung up. After a while, when I called Jack back, my world came crashing down. He told me that Alex had been in an accident and had passed away. And just like that, my life changed forever. My baby Alex had wandered out of the daycare unnoticed and had been hit by a car while chasing a ball. I fainted the moment I got the news. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital bed with Jack sobbing beside me. I sprang up, grabbed Jack's collar, and screamed at him to bring our son back. I roared that I didn't care if he had to breathe life into him or exchange his own. I needed my child back. Jack couldn't say or do anything but sob while trying his best to calm me down. But I was beyond consolation. I went crazy, unleashing all my grief and rage on him. I blamed him for Alex's death. I blamed him for everything. I even went as far as saying I would never forgive him, that it was all his fault. Looking back at it now, I realize how cruel I was. Perhaps I was too terrified to accept that my boy was truly gone. I just couldn't bear the thought. I didn't want to acknowledge that our child was dead, and that I shared responsibility for it. I guess it was just too much, and I needed someone to unleash it all on. And I chose Jack. Despite everything, Jack absorbed it all. All my anger and outbursts, he took it in and never blamed me for anything. He tried his best to remain strong for us. And I guess that gave me the twisted permission to keep doing what I did. I withdrew from Jack, becoming increasingly distant. My focus shifted entirely to work, and I evolved into a workaholic. Perhaps that's an understatement. I became addicted to work. Yes, addicted, because it was the only way I could escape my pain. Nothing else was important to me anymore. The only thing that had any value in my life was work. Not Jack. Not our marriage. Not even my own well-being. I was so busy and consumed with my work that I failed to notice Jack was struggling with his health after Alex's passing. He took a year-long leave from work, and I never even bothered to find out why. I never even bothered to know the reason why and was too caught up in my own world. What if I had made a different choice back then? Would things be different now? Could I have been able to stop my marriage from falling apart the way it has? My husband became a stranger to me, and despite his efforts to make things better between us, I was always the problem. I was always so cold and too busy to spend time with him. Things stayed that way between us for years after that, and I had no idea Jack was struggling on his own until one night. I came home from work and found him cooking dinner, as usual. While he was chopping vegetables, he accidentally cut his finger with the knife. I watched unmoved as he winced in pain. Then, instead of showing concern, I lashed out, yelling at him, saying he was careless and could never do anything right. But then Jack stood frozen, stunned and scared, like he had just seen a ghost. The sight of his bleeding finger had him trembling, and he started sweating. I got confused and tried to talk to him, but he wasn't responding. When I got closer, I could feel his heart beating so fast, and his trembling only worsened. He was sweating excessively, and before I realized it, he passed out. I immediately rushed him to the hospital. That was when I found out he had suffered an anxiety attack. The doctor told me he had been on medication for a while, and that what I had just witnessed was another episode. He was going to be fine. Anyone else would feel bad and worried to hear that their loved one was ill, but I was different. After hearing the details about his condition from the doctor and confirming that it wasn't deadly or contagious, I left the hospital. I hurried back to work because I had received a call from my boss. I came home later the next day and Jack was already there. I asked him why he never told me about his condition. He said he didn't want me to worry, that I was always so busy, and he didn't want to add to my burdens. He assured me it wasn't anything serious and that he would be fine. I should have pulled him into a hug and comforted him. He must have been so helpless and scared. But instead of hugging him and trying to make him feel better, I just ignored everything and went to bed, claiming I was tired. As time passed, I witnessed Jack battling his anxiety attacks every time they happened. Most often, they occurred after he came home from work or when our family visited. And instead of being supportive, I would always get upset and yell at him, telling him to face his fears and get over it. I would even go as far as accusing him of avoiding his problems, that he wasn't getting better because he wasn't trying hard enough. Even when Jack asked me to accompany him to see his therapist, I would always agree, and then cancel at the last minute. When he brought it up again, I dismissed him, telling him I didn't believe in therapy and that it was just a waste of time. I'd claim that I had better, more important things to attend to at the office. Jack never complained. And I, selfishly, assumed everything was fine until about 2 weeks ago. My company hosted a party, and I was asked to bring my husband. When we arrived, everything seemed to be going perfectly, just the way I wanted, until my boss approached us. He appreciated me and my husband and confessed that he had been looking forward to that moment. He said he had always wanted to meet both of us to express his sympathy for the loss of our child. He had barely finished his words when, suddenly, Jack's anxiety struck. The partygoers were alarmed, and the whole event descended into panic due to Jack's anxiety attack, ruining the celebration for everyone. After he took his medication and finally regained his composure, I excused the both of us and took Jack outside. I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and I unleashed all 7 levels of hell on him. I screamed at Jack, telling him how mortified I felt in front of everyone because of the scene he had just caused. I went on to say he was an embarrassment to me, that he was weak and pathetic. Jack's face reflected shock, disbelief, and pain. I could see the disappointment in his eyes, but that didn't stop me. I continued my verbal assault, telling him to man up and stop letting his anxiety control and dictate his life. I asked him if he seriously thought therapy sessions would cure him, and if he did, then he was so naive, such a big idiot to even believe that. I said he needed to toughen up because he wasn't trying hard enough. Enough. Jack lost it. His anger boiled over. He smashed his phone to the ground and started yelling with all his might. He apologized angrily and profusely for being weak, like I had said. He apologized for the fact that he couldn't do anything for me other than hurt me. He apologized for everything. And then, like a lightning bolt, he walked away. He disappeared. That was the last time I saw him. I returned home after the party that night, but Jack wasn't there. He never came home. On Sunday morning, I got a delivery. When I opened it, there they were, divorce papers from Jack, staring me right in the eyes. I was so stunned and speechless I didn't know how to react. When did things get this messed up between us? Staring at those divorce papers in my hands, I suddenly felt consumed by fear. It felt like I was about to have a panic attack. I waited, hoping Jack would show up. But he never did. It's as if he vanished off the face of the earth. I don't know what else to do anymore. I already lost a child, and now I'm so afraid I'm going to lose my husband too. I never meant to hurt him, but I guess I did. And now I don't know how to fix anything. Most importantly, I don't know how I'll ever make up for everything. I want my husband back. But I have nowhere else to go and no one to talk to. So I came here to pour out everything. I don't care if you blame me or judge me, because I've done that to myself a million times already. What I need right now is a solution. I want to fix everything. I've learned the hard way that some mistakes can never be undone. You can't truly understand or feel another person's pain unless you've experienced a similar depth of suffering or lived that person's life in their moment. I can never fully grasp the amount of pain Jack was going through or how much he endured during our time together. It's clear now I was completely oblivious to his struggles. Looking back into his world these past few days has made me realize how much of a monster I was. My husband was hurting, and I was too self-absorbed and busy to notice. Instead, I inflicted new wounds onto his barely healed scars, stabbing at an already fragile heart. I can only imagine the pain and torture he must have endured being with me. And the weight of that truth is crushing me. I'm such a selfish and undeserving person, and I accept that. I don't know how else I can make up for everything. It's been a month since Jack disappeared, leaving me with when I first received the divorce papers. I thought Jack was just angry and would come back home once everything cooled down between us. But I was wrong. Michelle, his therapist, visited me 3 days ago, and I have been consumed by tears ever since. She came to check on Jack because he had missed his therapy sessions, something completely unlike him. She confessed she was relieved to finally meet me. She had wanted to speak to me for a long time, but I had always been too busy, and it got to the point where Jack decided not to bother me anymore. He told her he would fight and recover on his own. She told me she had a lot to say, and I must admit, she poured out enough to drown me in guilt. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. She revealed that Jack developed his anxiety disorder shortly after the death of our child, Alex. Hearing her say that made my chest tighten so much, it felt like my nose sealed shut. I couldn't breathe. My husband had been silently battling anxiety attacks for almost 3 years. And I had only just found out about it 3 months ago. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I was so flabbergasted, I didn't even know how to respond. Michelle told me that Jack blamed himself for Alex's death. He believed he was responsible. He also feared that our marriage was falling apart because of him. His biggest fear, she said, was that I would abandon him, especially after we lost Alex. And that fear was what triggered his anxiety. Michelle shared that she had encouraged Jack countless times to bring me with him to his therapy sessions. But he always refused. He told her he didn't want to trouble me with his condition. He believed I had no one else to lean on, and if I knew about his struggles, he would appear weak to me. He feared I wouldn't be able to cope with everything. He didn't want to become a burden to me. So he kept his treatment private. He kept everything confidential. His words, as shared by Michelle, cut deep into my soul. Michelle went on to say that the day she found out I had finally learned about Jack's condition, she was thrilled. She truly believed that I would become his support, his pathway to recovery. But to her greatest disappointment, nothing changed. Each time Jack came for his treatment, he would make up excuses for my absence, until eventually, Michelle stopped asking. She was afraid pushing him might add more pressure, which would only worsen his condition. She told me how much I meant to Jack, and how much guilt he carried, knowing he could never bring our child back. That thought, his inability to undo the past, made him feel worthless and helpless. Michelle explained that these negative thoughts were among the main triggers of his anxiety attacks. And in Jack's case, if only I had shown even the slightest support, he might have gotten better over time. As Michelle spoke, a wave of guilt washed over me. Then she asked if I had any idea where Jack was. I went blank. I broke down in tears, crying and wailing like my soul was being stabbed repeatedly. I could feel the pain cut through me, but I couldn't see the knife. All I could do was shed tears as the agony coursed through my body, deep into my spirit. I told her I had no idea where Jack had gone after our last fight. I had only received the divorce papers from him. I had refused to sign them, thinking maybe he'd show up one day. But after hearing everything now, I knew it was truly over. I had no right to even hold on to him. I was never there for him, not once, during his darkest days. I was just a useless person, incapable of helping the man I called my husband. I can't believe I ever claimed to be his wife, when I was actually the main source of his pain. I was the reason he was sick. And I couldn't stop crying and blaming myself for it. Michelle concluded by saying that she couldn't even blame Jack for disappearing, for choosing divorce as his last resort. Because the way things were going, if he had stayed with me, his condition would have never improved. She believed I would have just continued hurting him. As if her words hadn't crushed me enough, she went on to reveal another truth. When Jack found out there was a possibility anxiety disorders could be genetic, he became terrified to even consider having another baby. He was afraid of watching his own child suffer. He said it would only make things harder for me, and he didn't want to risk that. And suddenly, I understood why our sex life had completely stopped. That realization shattered me even more. Michelle ended by saying, "You were everything to your husband, but it's just so sad. He was so unlucky to have you as his wife." Her words still echo in my mind. And that final statement haunts me, leaving me on the brink of madness. I'm consumed by grief, and I feel like I'm about to lose my mind. The work that once seemed more important than anything now feels completely meaningless. I just lay at home, crying, praying for a miracle. That somehow I might see Jack again. But I know I'm unworthy of such a wish, or even such an opportunity. I felt so guilty that I eventually signed the divorce papers and sent them to our family lawyer. I don't even deserve to be called his wife. And the guilt, knowing I couldn't do anything for him, weighs heavily on my conscience. Because deep down I know I failed as Jack's wife. I was never there when he needed me the most. Now I'm trapped in our empty home, tormented by questions. Where did it all go wrong? How did everything get to this point? Is there any way to change even a small part of it? Even if I can't change anything, I just want one chance, just one, to make things right for Jack. I know I don't deserve happiness, but I wish things could be different for him. I'm really struggling, and nothing anyone has said to me on this platform has helped. All I've received are insults and hateful comments. So, I'm taking my leave. I'm deleting this account because I can't cope with everything anymore. Emptiness and regret are my tormentors. They haunt me every second of every day. I'm on the verge of losing my mind. But who can I blame? I know I messed up. And I ruined my life. And sadly, my husband's as well. I wish I could apologize to Jack for everything. And if possible, earn his forgiveness. Even though I know I don't deserve it. I'm lost. And I don't know how to move forward. But if something like a second chance does exist, I'd be willing to give up anything. Even my life, to earn it. Wherever Jack is, I hope he is happy. And I hope he forgets about a cruel person like me. Goodbye. In the end, what hurt Misa the most wasn't losing her husband. It was losing the better part of herself because she had let indifference and selfishness take over her heart. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some words, spoken in moments of thoughtlessness, can destroy an entire soul. And some people, we only realize how deeply they loved us once they're gone. Misa no longer has a chance to fix things. All that remains is emptiness, regret, and a silent home without laughter. And Jack, maybe he's somewhere out there, trying to heal from the wounds she left behind. If you're in a relationship, please don't wait until it's too late to show appreciation. Listen to each other. Stay close, especially when your loved one needs you the most. What are your thoughts on this story? Feel free to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if it touched your heart. See you in the next one.